All right, you know what I'm saying? So, boom! My boy LA Knight. My boy LA Knight, man. What the fuck? So, this dude LA Knight comes into WWE. What did they sign him to NXT originally? I think they signed him back in like 2020 or 2021. So, if you ask me at that point in time when LA Knight was in NXT, I would say maybe he and Cross and like Austin Theory and maybe like a couple other guys. At that point in time in the pandemic era, there were only a few guys in NXT who actually looked like wrestlers and who actually talked like wrestlers and acted like wrestlers. And one of those guys was LA Knight. And I've been a fan of the guy myself. I think the first time I saw him was back in 2014, I think it was. It was literally 2014. It was Impact. It was when he, Drew McIntyre, and Camacho, aka Tongaloa, aka Micah. His name was Micah. Um, those guys had a group in TNA. They were like the what were they called? They were the not the Revolution, the Revelation, the what were they called? The Rising. That's what they were. They were the Rising. If you never heard the Rising's theme song, check it out. I highly recommend. But when the first time I saw LA Knight there in that segment with Drew and Micah in Impact way back when in 2014, I was like, this guy is a stud. He's a fucking stud. You know, he's not the biggest guy. LA Knight, he's not the tallest guy, but he's always had a good physique. He's got a good look. He can talk. I mean, yeah, you can say he's kind of a mix of Rock and Stone Cold ripoff, but I mean, hey, Ric Flair's not the first Nature Boy. You know, I'm not the first person to say ass or bitch or fuck. So I don't care. I don't really have a problem with it. But the guy LA Knight, I've thought for a long time that he's had a lot of star potential. I think that he wasted a lot of good years of his in Impact when he honestly should have made the move maybe a few years earlier. I mean, well, WWE had him actually. They had him actually back in what 2012 or 2013 or whatever. What was his name? Sean Ricker or Sean Riker or whatever. I think that's like his real name. I could be wrong, but the guy, he has potential. He has potential. He's had potential for a long time. I don't know why he waited so damn long to go to the WWE. Why does everyone wait so damn long now to go to the big leagues? You know, used to be a lot of guys got their big break when they were much younger. You know, maybe it's just because they were more talented back then. But now you have all these guys like LA Knight, like Damian Priest, like Drew McIntyre, like fucking Finn Balor. All these guys are in their late 40s, or I'm sorry, late 30s, early 40s. LA Knight's like 42, right? He's like 42. So if they had pulled the trigger on him at least a couple years ago when they probably should have, if he had won the Money in the Bank back in like 2023, then by now, 2 years later, he would have probably already been pretty well established. He would have probably already had a world title reign or two under his belt. And, maybe you could use him in a higher profile spot where he can contribute more to you. But, um, he loses the Money in the Bank ladder match 3 years straight. He's a three-time loser. He's a three-time loser. He's a two-time U.S. champion, but nobody gives a fuck at all. He had a relatively decent U.S. title reign, all things considered. But come on, LA Knight, he should be and could be doing a lot more. Um, but he's just not for whatever reason. I can't tell you why. What does the guy need to do? What does he have to do? He's 42, looks better than half the guys on the roster. He is, when I see, he's looking kind of old these days. I'm not gonna lie, he's looking kind of old. I'm not saying he looks like crap, but he's looking older, man. He's in his 40s, If they had this guy 10, 15 years ago, he probably could have been something. But it's kind of a shame now to see where his career is gone. Um, I feel like there's a lot of guys on the roster who have had some pretty good potential over the years. Drew McIntyre, um, Damian Priest, even at one point. Cross, I would say, had some potential, but we kind of see how that's panned out. Cross video coming in the future too. Be on the lookout. But LA Knight he's just been fucking around and he's been squandered. And, when you look back to really when he first got over, me personally, I a lot of times like to look back when people first got over and, how it came about, when they got over, why they got over. LA Knight, they started him out as Maxine Dupree, which was fucking atrocious. It's fucking atrocious. Yeah, that could have been the end of his career right there. As much as I want to talk crap about Triple H for the way he's booked LA Knight, I also have to acknowledge the fact that LA Knight probably wouldn't have a job. He'd probably be in AEW or back in the NWA, or he'd be somewhere no one gives a fuck about. That's for sure. He'd be somewhere else, not in the big leagues, if it weren't for Triple H. Hell, he'd either still be Max Dupree or he'd been fired. I'm pretty sure he was gonna get fired because he spoke up about it, which is what you don't do in WWE. You don't do that. So he starts out as Max Dupree. It's fucking terrible. It's fucking terrible from the start. It is, and I would say once Triple H finally let him cut loose and be LA Knight, I don't want to say that already doomed him from the start, but it was like that's not exactly the way you want to probably start off your career. I mean, we've seen people start off with fucking terrible gimmicks at the start. Steve Austin was the ringmaster. Triple H was a British blue blood, right? The Rock was just your typical happy-go-lucky babyface, and we saw those guys become something more. But those guys were also a lot younger than LA Knight. Those guys didn't start their WWE careers at like 39 or 40, which LA Knight did. So it's like you don't really have much time to waste with this guy. He can be of service to you now. You know, what did Triple H say? Oh, good things come to those who wait. Fuck you. If the guy can make you money, then why not let him make you money now? Why wait 2 or 3 years down the line? He's already in his 40s. What are you waiting for? So I don't really get the whole he has to wait even though he's already over now. You're gonna wait till he's not over to give him a push? You know, it's not correlating. It's not correlating, right? Doesn't make any sense, does it? So you got LA Knight. He becomes one of your top merch sellers. He becomes one of the most interesting people on TV. That feud between him and Bray Wyatt a few years ago, that was meant to, kind of reintroduce Bray Wyatt, so to speak. It wasn't meant to get LA Knight over, yet he's the one who benefited more than Bray. Because on the one hand, you have Bray Wyatt. He's this spooky, weird motherfucker. And then you have LA Knight, who's just like a real dude, who's just like, bro, you're weird. You're weird. This shit's weird. I don't take you serious. And he gets more over than Bray Wyatt does. Surprise, surprise. The the real masculine, actual cool guy. He actually gets more support than the guy who's fucking sad and depressed, and he goes to these dark places, and he has to rethink himself, and he has to come back with a new look, and he comes out in drag. um so it's no fucking there should be no confusion as to how LA Knight came out on top in that equation, despite despite the fact rather that he was the one who lost. Fucking pitch black Mountain Dew match. What is this? What is this? We don't need to see anything ever like that again. The fact that this dude LA Knight has survived Bray Wyatt, he survived Max Dupree, he survived all the fucking burials, all the losses. This dude can't get I guess he can beat like a Pete Dunne, he can beat like an Ilya Dragunov, but when it comes to beating someone like like he should be able to beat Seth Rollins clean. I know he just beat Seth after Seth faked an injury, but he should be at least on like a Damian Priest or a Drew McIntyre level. I guess you can say he is. I guess you can say he is, but yeah, Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre at least were world champions. What does this fucking guy have to do? What does he have to do? We see him do, good moves. He's not Will Ospreay or Kenny Omega, but he does good moves. He has entertaining segments, entertaining matches, entertaining promos. But it's like you can only doom this guy to damnation for so long until people just get sick of it, man. We've seen this a million times. It doesn't matter how good you were. It doesn't matter how popular you are. It doesn't matter if they treat you like crap, if they treat you like garbage long enough, then people are gonna lose interest, man. We're gonna move on. We're gonna start to think, you know what? I don't think this LA thing is ever gonna happen. What's new? What's next? Who else can we latch on to? We've seen it a million times. LA Knight's career is not going to go anywhere at this point. I know he's challenging. He's going to be in like a fatal four-way match for the world title coming up at the next pay-per-view. But this is going to be a throwaway match as much as Drew versus Cody is going to be a throwaway match for the WWE title. There's just no chance in hell Cody's losing. There's a good chance. At least there's a higher chance that Seth could lose because at least he's in there with people who are, pretty decently capable, I would say. Like, CM Punk, he's not a scrub, obviously. Um, and it's a fatal four way, so a lot of different things could happen. But Seth just won the belt after they just went through the trouble of trying to pull off this huge swerve, which wasn't a swerve at all. So I just don't see, I don't see Seth Rollins losing the World Heavyweight title, and definitely not to LA Knight. If anything, LA Knight should have won the Money in the Bank briefcase this year. If not 2023, he should have won it 2024. If not 2024, he should have won it 2025. This is 3 years now, three straight years of Money in the Bank. It's like, what the fuck are we even talking about anymore at this point? And the Money in the Bank briefcase, that is a gimmick tailor made for like an LA Knight. It's tailor made for like a Mr. Kennedy type, or like a Miz type, or even like a Kevin Owens type. You know, I mean, and to think that they've shafted his ass 2 or 3 years in a row. Damian Priest won it 2023. Um, Big fucking deal. Big fucking deal. Damian Priest becomes world champion. His title reign doesn't even start getting good until like the last few weeks, when people could see that it was coming to an end. And then McIntyre has it for a cup of coffee. So why not get LA Knight in there, man? Why not get LA Knight in there? Give him a title reign. Even if he wins it, give him like a Jericho moment when Jericho beat Triple H on one random episode of Raw, and obviously he had to give it back in the same night the decision was overturned. But do something like that with LA Knight, but actually give him like a week. Give him like a week. Give him like a month. Give him a month. Let him retain the title at least one time on an episode of Raw, and then have him drop it back to Seth at the next pay-per-view. At least LA Knight would get something out of it, being able to say that he was a world champion. If anything, instead of Cody being the one to beat Cena, I would have liked to have seen LA Knight be the one to beat Cena. Me personally, but that's not what they did. I'm not the one running the show, so there's no sense in really bitching and moaning and complaining about it any more than I already have. And with that being said, I'm gonna leave you guys with a big old middle finger to your face, and I'm gonna go ahead and piece the fuck up out of here, and I'll catch you in the next one.